Hi and welcome to my channel. It's been long overdue. I've been thinking about stepping onto the old YouTube and here we are. So I guess I'd just like to start off with telling my story. I will start from the beginning and here we go. So I grew up in the roughest part of Brighton. I don't quite know what it's like nowadays, but I was there until I was 7 years old, and it's called Whitehawk. Quite glad that we got out when we did. In fact, it was until I was 5, and then I moved to another part of Brighton for a couple of years. The top of a big hill, but on the edge of the downs, which was nice enough. But going back, I remember the first thing I can remember about my teachers, reporting on me. They pretty much across the board all said that I was a daydreamer, and that started. From as early as I can remember, I was just in another world or just somewhere else. The imagination is a wild thing. So from the age of 7, I started to get into the Games Workshop. Not sure if you're aware, the lead figures, and you can sit in the shop and paint them. And I pretty much lived in that shop for 2 years. Now, the first music that I got into was, I think my first entry was Michael Jackson, if I remember rightly. And I had all of his albums, all the old ones. So hanging out in Games Workshop led me to hard rock. So I think sort of Rush was the entry point, and then it got a bit harder and harder until it got as hard as Metallica and even Megadeth. And I would listen to various hard rock bands for the next till I got to 11, I think. But I lived in Games Workshop from the age of 7 till about 10, I think. I never really enjoyed playing the games. I just painted the figures, and over 3 years I got so good at it that I actually, in the last 6 months I was there, I was there because I was living there. I had the figures in the cabinet, in the window as on display. So that was quite a win for me, I think, at the age of 10. Pretty cool. So I've always really loved colour. Something's drawn me to colour, and there was even going back to junior school, that was I only really enjoyed art. My teacher was very into Van Gogh, and we'd listen to Starry Night, and she would inspire us with stories of Van Gogh and paintings. That was a great memory. She was a great teacher. So going on from, as with everything in my life I've ever done, I just put everything into it and then sod it off and jack it in. I've done it with everything. So I haven't told you the rest of the things yet, but there we go. So high school starts at the age of 11, as we know. Yes, still into my hard rock. And then just into the first year, I heard some dance music coming out of a shop in Brighton, and it perked my ear. And I popped in there and I was like, this is interesting. And so I bought a mixtape, and that was my love of hardcore as it was then, where it began. This was in the year that it was really still merging between hardcore and jungle. It was just rave, and then it went hardcore and jungle. So I can't remember what year that is. I don't know, what is it? Is that 98 or something? Or 90? No, not 98. 93. 92, 93? So what? So let's work that out. I was born in 82. So yes, it would be 94, wouldn't it? 94. That was the year 94. 93, well, I think 93 was where rave became, I might be wrong, it might be 91, but it was, it was around then. So that was that, and then I did nothing but pester my dad for a pair of turntables. Obviously not Technics at that age, but we went to get these, after enough pestering, we went to get some Aristons from Richer Sounds, and they were these belt drive things. It's my decaf. I'm drinking coffee again at the moment. I do miss it. I love it. I quit for a bit, but have decaf in the afternoon. So it's yes, the Ariston. They were absolute beasts. They were monsters, and they were big wooden chunky things, and that was my first decks. And I remember when I got my first vinyl, or first bunch of vinyl, 5 or 6, and I didn't even realise that you could go between 30, 33 and 45. And I was playing a whole bunch of them at 33, and they were meant to be on 45 for like a week until I worked it out. So there you go. That's what you learn as you go, I guess. Now, friends started to come round. There we go. Then I found skateboarding, and that was brilliant part of my life. Wonderful friends I met. So I was at Barndine School at the top of Ditchling Road, and I had some great friends there. But when I started skateboarding, it turned out that most of my friends were from Dorothy Stringer School, and or most of the people skateboarding, and so I ended up hanging out with them more. So I had more friends in the other school than I did in my own school. Well, you can't say that. Yes, I mean more that I hung out with out of school. I still had great friends in school. So what can I say? I think I was very much loved at school. There wasn't anyone that didn't take to me, I don't think. I don't know why, but it was a good place to be. I was very sociable, which is strange. I mean, it's funny because I am really the eternal introvert. I'm very much an introvert, and I spend a lot of my time alone now, since getting sober. So that obviously that comes later on, but I've learnt that I am much. I'm very comfortable in my own company. So my friends started to come round to DJ, and then it all rubbed off on all of those guys, and everyone got turntables in the end. Or not everyone, but a good sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 of my friends or something like that. So we would skateboard around town, various spots. I liked street skating. I was never good on the ramps. Some were better on ramps than others. I've got my grounded mat here, which goes off every 20 minutes. So I like to keep yourself grounded when you sit at a desk all day. So I was by the age of 12. Yeah, so I have turntables and lots of new friends, and that was when we first started to experiment with marijuana. One of my friend's mums smoked it herself and actually grew it each year as well, just in the garden. And so it was deemed okay by one mum, so we started there. And then I had a friend that was 2 years, who I'd known since I was 7 when I moved. I forgot to say when I moved. I moved from up the top of the hill in Brighton, and I moved to this very centre of Brighton, where my mum still lives now. 37 years she's been there. So she's still there, and it was a council house. And we were very lucky to get the transfer there, right in the middle of the city centre. And she's still a council house to this day. She's got very, very cheap rent. Very lucky, which is great. So I didn't really talk about my mum and my dad. They got on, but there were quite a lot of rows, and they got much more frequent once I got to the age of 12. Though I remember them like quite frequently. My dad was an athletics coach still at this time, and he was a mad runner himself, and he'd run 18 miles a day. I think I've got his logs, so I think it averaged 18 miles a day with a day off, which is pretty insane for about 10 to 15 years. I think maybe it's 10 years that he was running. I'm not sure. Between 10 and 15 years. And he just loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I could talk about more about that in a bit. My mum is an amazing writer. Unfortunately, she's just I suppose she was just a mum. I've got 3 brothers and sisters, but they're half brothers and sisters. They're all 10 years older than me in 6 and 1 year apart. So 10 or 11, 10 and 9, something like that, years older than me. So we were all together in Whitehawk, and then when we were in St Helens Road up the top of the hill by the South Downs, we were all still there, and then something happened. I think so. My dad really looked after them well and treated them like his own children. I think they weren't told till a certain age that he wasn't their dad or something like that. I'm not sure. I never asked. Maybe I'll ask my sister. And they just suddenly turned against him, sadly, and I think they all left around the same time. Maybe the eldest left on his own because he was just old enough. He was 18, something like that. And then the other 2 went a year or so afterwards. So anyway, so Simon, the youngest, it's strange because he was the one that really got offended the most, and he was probably the closest to my dad until then. But things haven't turned out so well for him. He's had 3 children. They're all on a spectrum. From what I can remember, there's only one that I've seen, Floyd, and he's seemed quite special when I saw him last. About, I don't know, it was probably about 10 years ago now. But so I think this shows that. Okay, so my sister has 2 children. Her sons, she had 3 stillbirths actually before. Then she has had 2 children since, and her son has ADHD, and her sister is her daughter is kind of agoraphobic. She keeps herself to herself at home, but she does go out, but not very much. She actually came to Brighton very recently, and it's the first time she's been in 10 years out of her own hometown, from what I can work out. So my eldest brother Justin, he has 1 son, and he's heavily autistic. So I think this goes to show there is a lot of neurodivergence in my family. Funnily enough, my mum seems pretty with it still, even though, I'm pretty appalled at her diet, and it's very difficult to try to change change older people's thinking. So I've just experimented with marijuana at the age of 12. My friend, who's 3 years older than me, 2 years older than me, who I met where I moved to, is experimenting with slightly more drugs than marijuana. So one day he offered us to hang out and take LSD, which we did, and I was with 2 of my still quite close friends. We've been in and out of seeing each other, but we're actually still quite close. And they're a year younger than me. They're 11. So that was that, and that really sparked my whole. So this is still in the first year, towards the end of the first year. My whole high school career was just drenched in experimentation with drugs, mind-altering substances, as you could say. Wasn't shortly after that we tried ecstasy, Then my dad let me go to underage raves, 14 to 18-year-old raves in Birmingham. I went to 5 of those, and lots of other parents were like, "You can't go to that," as in to their kids, which is funny because my dad always didn't let me go to bed he let me go to bed. He didn't let me go to bed. He made me go to bed at 9 o'clock till I was about, I don't know, 15. He was quite strict about that, but then he'd let me go to a rave at the age of 12. It must have been when I was 14, 14. So at this stage, jungle was advancing into drum and bass, which that would have been around 95. We were getting 4 fake IDs so we can go to nightclubs, and I was sort of blagging it in wherever we could. That was happening, and taking more and more ecstasy, probably less LSD. I didn't take it that much after that. I've had a few experimentations since, but a friend of ours started to get crushed mushroom pills from Mexico, and they were really strong. In fact, they were hit and miss. In fact, sometimes they were just crazy. So we did those often as well. And that was pretty much my high school. So a lot of the other guys were very smart, and they concentrated at school and still managed to smoke loads of weed and get really good grades. But me, I just couldn't concentrate at all. I just didn't really care for it. Treated it like a social club, and that was that. I didn't get any GCSEs. I think I got a C in reading, actually, in English. I failed art because I didn't apply myself, which was sad, because I'd often get A's for my homework whenever I did it, which was very rare. And then by this time I had bought Technics. I loved DJing, but my taste had changed. My preference to DJing had changed. I could never beat match very well, whereas my best friend Will, who's now on Metalheads, he got signed by Goldie. That's cool, isn't it? He doesn't even put headphones on. He knows where the start of the record is. Like, even just from, it's crazy, and he can mix in like a minute every single time. He's amazing when you see him out. It's obviously all changed now because it's all CDJs and USBs. So we used to carry his records home. Jesus Christ, wowzers! Remember that? We'd have to take it in turns carrying his records home. So where are we? School, and sorry, my brain is a scatterbrain. I can't concentrate for more than a second. I lose my train of thought very easily. So by this stage, yes, my exit from DJing drum and bass, I gravitated towards hip hop and scratching, and I just fell in love with it. And this was the next skill I picked up, and just went all in on it. I practiced 5 hours every single day, pretty much. Let's say 3 hours, but I was on those turntables a lot. And it got to the stage where I was, at the age of about 17, I was probably the most respected scratch DJ in the whole city. And there's a lot of these guys in their late 20s, I've been doing it for 10 years. I just out-practiced them. And unfortunately, I didn't play out enough. I did do quite a few gigs, but I didn't play out enough. But whenever I did, as I say, I wasn't great at beat matching, but with hip hop, you don't really need to beat match. You just bang the next tune in. They're often different tempos anyway. But I did blow people away with my scratching. And I taught a lot of people. In fact, I taught JFB, who's now the world championship. He's from this town. He's 2 times world championship, and he's absolutely killing it. I mean, I haven't actually seen what he does these days, but I've heard he's killing it. And I actually taught him how to do the most complex scratch. He came around my house. So there we go. If you stick with things, you can make a career out of it, which is what I never did. Clever boy. So I did that for about 5 years, I guess, until I got to 20. I went to music technology school. My mum wrote a very nice note saying he's got no GCSEs, but he really wants to go, and they let me in, so that was nice. And I did fairly well, but then I just sodded it off towards the end, and I didn't finish it. Didn't pass, and then I went to go and try and hand the projects that I was just. It was literally like 2 pages of writing. Like it was just a couple of written modules, and I just couldn't be asked. I mean, all the practicals were fine. I just couldn't be asked. And then I went and handed it in a year later, and they just didn't mark them. So I never got the qualification. So that was great. Then I went on to do a sound engineering course in London, 3 days a week. So all my friends went to uni at this stage, and I had loads of places to stay. So I'd stay and work in Brighton. So I didn't mention my work career. I actually started, there's a bookshop near my house. I started to bring the books in after school when I was 11. And then I started to work there Saturdays. And so I've always worked, and I always brought my own money in from that age. It was quite handy to find that job, and I got many people jobs there because it was such a busy place. It was crazy. Sometimes we had like 12 people working between the two shops. Anyway, another part to the story. It's around the same time anyway. There was an amazing guy who just moved to Brighton, and he's from Birmingham, and he opened a skateboard shop, and it was just down the road from the bookshop, so it's all near the area I lived in. And I just started going in there more and more because I was the closest one, and I was the first one to get the job there. He gave me the job because he knew me the best. So I worked in the skateboard shop from the age of 15, which was so cool. Gary Gilmore, he was an absolute nutter, absolute smasher nutter, complete nutcase. That shop was, I mean, you could write a book about that shop, I promise you. It was mental. We had a record shop downstairs for a while, and that folded. It was with someone else, and he was just on it all the time. He was just, and this is where I sort of my entry to cocaine was from him, at the age of 16, 17. But I'd go into work and just roll. He'd go skin up straight the first thing we did while I'm sweeping the floor. And then this was around when I started to drink more. You get the taste for it, where you just have to get over that taste of beer. Like I've tried it up to about the age of 15, and then it was like you've drunk enough that you break the seal, and it's like, okay, this is nice actually. And that was that, and that was my absolute love of beer for the rest of my life. And just alcohol in general. Did get very into wine as well, but just anything really. I always loved my single malts as well. So working in the skateboard shop, absolute nut job of an owner. Amazing guy though, he's brilliant. So yes, I started at the college in London to do sound engineering just as a progression. No connection this was more of a vocational course, so I just thought, okay, maybe this will get me a job. I actually did pretty well in it. I think it was my personality because it's actually quite a hard course. You use the massive desk, the industry standard Neve or whatever it is, or the other one, I forget the name. We learned to align the 1/4-inch tape, all of those things, and then we had tech modules as well. And nobody passed the whole course. There's 16 people, and I got the highest mark, which is very strange because there were people technically better than me on the computer stuff. They were much better than me, but I think my nature got me through a few modules. I was quite sort of calm and relaxed and chilled, and there was a bit of interviewing in some of them, if I remember rightly. So anyway, I didn't pass, but I got 7 out of 8 modules, and nobody else got more than 6. So I didn't do anything with that, and at this stage I left Gary at the shop because I just needed something more full-time rather than 3 days a week. So I ended up in a call centre in Telegen, it was called. And I was sold cancer insurance for 2 years, and that was great. So actually I got better at it, and then I just gave up with it. I remember the last 6 months was just like, oh, it's just a job, you know. You just go and sometimes you make some sales, sometimes you don't, and they're sort of they're either trying to get you out or you make sales. So that was that. Then I moved on to EDF Energy, which is still around, Électricité de France, and I worked in customer service for them for 2 years also. Now, through this time, through Gary, finishing with Gary and still hanging out with all my mates, we obviously started raving hard. And we started taking drugs hard. Ecstasy and cocaine. Good friend of mine who lives in Thailand now, moved down from Hull, and he was a big part of all this. He was absolutely crazy, still is absolutely crazy, but I love him. He's just trying to sort his life out in Thailand right now. I don't even want to go into the stories behind him, but anyway, I think from around the age of 20 to 26, if I remember rightly, between the bunch of us, we would take an ounce of cocaine pretty much every weekend, and up to, I think I've taken 100 ecstasy in a weekend before, probably, definitely, because there used to be bags of thousands hanging around, and you just start eating them every half an hour because you just build a tolerance. So that was my 20s, and that got a bit much. I was still in the EDF towards the end of this. Yeah, I guess I would have finished the call centres at 20, the insurance at 22, 24, something like that. And then at EDF, I decided that it all started to get a bit much, and a couple of friends wanted to go on travelling to Thailand. So missed a part of the story that I started cooking at 16, very, very, very avidly. And it was my one outlet that was sort of healthy. And, well, I mean, not to say that skateboarding wasn't healthy and DJing wasn't healthy. But behind it all was mayhem really from the age of 12. And it just got worse and worse. But so I got crazy into cooking at the age of 16. From the age of 16, just built up more and more cookery books. I'd cook every day, different cuisine. I'd learn all the French sauces and all the extremely intricate Indian curries. And then I fell for Thai, and I got really, really, really into that. So I'd been cooking Thai for almost 10 years before I actually went there. So anyway, we booked a 3-month trip, 10 weeks in Thailand, 2 weeks in India on the way back in Kerala. And off we went, me and a good mate of mine that I'd known since I was 12. In fact, his house is just there. I'm in my dad's flat. That's another story. But another mate that we did go to school with, but I didn't really hang out with, that we just met together in the call centre. And he'd been many times, so he was kind of our guide. So off we went. And the second I went there, it was like, oh, wow, I love this. I mean, it was hot. I don't really like hot countries, but still don't. But apart from that and the food, it was just discovering all the dishes, the ones that I'd been cooking, and how I could refine my knowledge day by day by just eating in different places, So absolutely loved that at the best time of my life. Met a few girls there, as you do, and there was one particularly that I kept in contact with when I got back, and it was kind of my pull to go back. I was like, I miss you, I want to come back. So I dived back into a call centre straight after that trip, and sold Sky Insurance or something like that, and planned my exit back to Thailand. So I knew there were a few people from my school that were out there, people that I didn't hang out with that much, but they'd been there teaching for a while. I was like, well, it can be done. If others are doing it, it can be done. And so I did all the research, saved up enough money, I think I had 10 grand, and off I went. And I said bye to Mum. I was still living at Mum's. I lived at Mum's till I was 26, although I was dossing in London a lot. So that was that. I moved out of mum's straight to Bangkok. That was mental. I jumped on the plane, and in fact I said bye to my mates the night before, and I cried really badly. I've always been a crier. I cry a lot. Still cry a lot. I haven't cried for a while actually. But I jumped on the plane and cried all the way there. I was like, what the hell have I done? And then I arrived somewhere to stay for a month, booked somewhere for a month. And I had already booked my TESOL course, teaching English as a second language. And I settled into the place. Didn't have to start for like a week or something, or a couple of days. And then the second day I got up and I started walking around. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like that severe culture shock. It was almost like an out of body experience. It was crazy, just for a couple of hours. And then I settled down again. And then I got on the beers, I think. So I went to get away from these excessive weekends that we were having that just escalated until they just got so ridiculous. I mean, I used to call in in that EDF. I must have called in sick on Monday. I don't know, in the last year, like half the Mondays. I was never someone that did that as well. It got that bad. I was still awake from Friday all the way through Monday, and sometimes it'd go to Tuesday as well. Ridiculous. So anyway, got to Thailand. I went to Thailand to get away from that, but obviously this hot country with lots of cold beer, and I just carried on hitting it just as hard. So anyway, I did the course. I found it really difficult, but they make it so you can pass. It's not difficult. It would have been hard to fail it, I think. We went to the country to teach orphans, which was cool, interesting. It was tough though. There was no aircon in the classroom, and orphans from Burma and China and God knows when, even India, I think, as well. And then I had to find a job, so I found a job, Satit Chula. It's a very famous school, and it was terrible as a high school. I think the university is very famous, which makes the high school, junior and high school, famous. But I taught the 3 to 11-year-olds 1 hour a week in these massive classes with no aircon, and I was just I had no interest in making the resources. I had no resources. I was just pulling everything out of nowhere. And I'm not the improvisational person. So like 80% of my lessons were like a lead balloon that just came over. Absolutely lost. Everyone's lost. I'm lost. And I just squeezed myself through it every week, and got really, really drunk at the weekend. And then tried to recover by Friday again, which is most of my life. And then after a year there, I left. I was like, I've got to find a different job. This is not the one. And I found this little place, a girls' school, primary school, and it's Assumption Convent Silom. Pasat Thai, that's in Thai. There's a bit Assumption Convent in the Silom area. And I got the job as the primary 1 teacher, the little 6-year-olds, and I was there for 6 years. I think it was it would have been 6 because so it was a funny thing because I was there, so it must have been to finish 6 years. So I started, by the time I'd finished, every single student in the whole school, because it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, every single year I'd taught. So they all knew me. Teacher Fank, Teacher Fank. They said, they can't say R's and L's. Teacher Fank, Teacher Fank. And there's 2,000 girls that I taught, which is funny, which is cool. So I got better. Each year. Still had massive classrooms in this stupid school. 45 kids. Are you joking? Sometimes it was 48 or 50. Like squeezing it in, and these parents are paying for these schools. These are private schools. They're not international schools, so they're not the full the full fees, but they're expensive schools. So I had one assistant, which was better because I didn't have assistants in the other school. The teacher's always there, sat doing her work at the back, just looking up, going, "What's going on here?" They'd never try and organise the kids for me or anything. But this place was a bit better. I had an assistant each time, and they did their best. Some were better than others. So I refined each year. I got a little bit better. I did lots of songs with the kids. So you do activities for 20 minutes, and I'd start off with songs just to make to sort of warm the lesson up. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, get them all jumping around and all that sort of stuff. And then I got the formula down, so it's like 20 minutes of teaching, and then 10 minutes more kind of games. 10 minutes of teaching, then 10 to 20 minutes of games, and then you got 10 minutes at the end to do the workbook, and that was the formula. In the end, it took me a while to get that right, but by the end that was it, and it was like you could just do it with your eyes closed. But it was fine. So I continued drinking very heavily to the first year in that school until we always had these big long holidays, and I ended up all the nightclubs every holiday, like so many days in a row. It's crazy, absolute madness. It's just like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, go out again. You get 3 months off, and I would go away as well. I'd go to different parts of Thailand and stuff like that, but sometimes you just end up in Bangkok for a month at a time, just partying every night. So I ended up putting myself in hospital after too many nights in a row. I got gastroenteritis from severe alcoholism, and I was in there for 2 days, and it gave me time to think, and I was like, this is not working, is it? This is not what I got away for. So I came out and I was like, I've got to do something with myself now. I'd been lifting weights with my friend Andrew a little bit, and I just thought, what else is there I can do? So I started running. So I went to Chat Park, if anyone's been to Thailand. There's a very famous market there. I'd get the underground up the road there, and I started with 5k, moved on to 10k, and then ended up just running 20k within a month around the park. And I did my first half marathon a couple of days after that, which was Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and I came 96th, I think, 96th. And I continued running more and more, got better, got faster, ran more, about speed work, learned about tempo runs, learned, making sure I did a long run every week, got loads of mileage in between. And I averaged 70 miles a week for 2 years with speed work, with the whole lot in there. 2 track sessions a week, 2 tempo runs, 1 long run. Second year at Angkor Wat, I came 48th. And then the third year at Angkor Wat, I came 5th out of 1,000 men in that race. Not too bad. I won a half marathon in Chiang Mai at the same time, just less runners. I often came in the top 10 to 15, depending how many Kenyans were running the race. So if there were Kenyans in the race, usually be in top 15. If there weren't, then I'd be in the top 10. 10k time was 35:60. My half marathon was 1:19:19. So, and the 5 was about 17 minutes. That was great. I met a great friend, Clive, running there, who started running. He was trained when he was young. He was a Irish college runner, and he'd been there 10 years or so, and he picked it back up to get away from the alcohol again, and he was really good. We trained together, we worked together, same school. So, in fact, that was how I got the job in the school. He got me the job because we met running first. So then I didn't have a university degree, and I was really blagging it there. There's a lot of people did back then. I don't know if you can now, but there were a lot of people working without degrees. Some schools were more lenient than others, and they would do the necessary things. So our school was trying to get us to all have degrees, and all the other guys actually went to Ramkhamhaeng to study English just to get a degree, just so they can stay there. And I didn't have any GCSEs, so they wouldn't let me. But that would have been funny, wouldn't it? If they did, I might not be here now talking to you. Might still be in Thailand teaching. This is how life goes. So I had to make a different decision. So with my love of cookery for so long, I to become a chef. I didn't ever want to become a chef, but I decided that I had to do it. There was nothing else for me. So they had Le Cordon Bleu in Bangkok, and my dad said, "Right, I've never paid for education for you. If you really want to do it and you want to come home, you need a new career, let's do it. I'll pay for you," which was very, very generous of my dad. He was a very, very good dad like that. He was very smart with saving. Now learning about investments and things like that, he was not the smartest person with money, but he always had money. He worked and saved very frugally. So he's paid for my fees. It was £12,000. I did that at the weekends while still trying to keep up with my extremely high volume running and teaching, and it all kind of just went too much. And I got injured actually. I overtrained. I did 3 half marathons in a month, and I got injured for the first time in 2 years. I was very lucky, did not get injured at all. And then I just couldn't get back to it, and then I started the 11-hour Saturday course, three lessons every Saturday, and it does take it out of you. And I had a partner at this stage. Didn't have a partner for the first 2 years in Thailand, and I'd had a partner for 3 years, and this was 5 years in Thailand. I always cooked for her. She's southern Thai, so she likes really spicy curries, crazy stuff, which I used to love as well. My chili tolerance was ridiculous. It's the same as the Thai, like 50 chilies in a curry, easy, or in a Thai salad, easy, little ones as well, the spicy ones. And then I started my course, and unfortunately the running fell off, and the drinking started again. Simple as that. Nothing else to do. Why not have a beer? So I didn't mention I was sober for the 2 years I started running, and I had 2 days on the sauce in 2 years after doing well in a couple of half marathons. I was like, fuck it, have 4 beers. These be the big ones. with Clive as well. On the bus back we had them a few times. Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah, he did the same thing. He's fuck it. And we just all start. In that school there were 6 of us, and I've got two of my mates from Brighton that were skateboarders. I've got them in the school. They moved over, and I got them jobs there. There's only 6 of us, and there's 3 of us. 3 of us are from Brighton, in the same school in Bangkok, for like 2 years. Funny. So we came back, and we came back. Where did we come back? I didn't come back yet. So I finished. So it took me a year and a half. Cordon Bleu, loads of stuff. It was pretty hard. I did okay. A lot of the Thais there are very detail orientated. They did really well. Some of them. I'm detail oriented as well, but I don't learn things so quickly. So I did okay. In fact, I got 3rd in my sugar work in the end, which was a surprise. I ended up watching YouTube videos on it the night before until 3 a.m. before the test, because I was really bad in the practice, and I just managed to pull it off from watching those videos. I was lucky. You have to pull ribbons. You get 2 types of colours of sugar, and you have to pull it down so it goes straight on your. You should do it on your jacket. And I smashed it. I learned just from watching it. I was like, that's how you do it, and I got it because I was terrible in the practice. I made Mr. Potato Head for my chocolate work, and it was an absolute shocker. It was a complete shocker. I just didn't plan it out. It's typical me. Apart from that, the other ones were doing the cakes in the time frame, the opera and stuff like that. They were all fine. It was fine. So the plan was to come back to England. So I had to leave my poor partner there for 4 years. She wanted to come, but I didn't think it was right for her, and obviously I didn't love her enough, frankly, to think she should come to England, and I just went. I don't think I was grown up enough for relationships, even at that age. Very, very, very immature in many ways, I have been. So that was that. I left. We had 2 cats together, Henry and Sarah, very English names. And I left there with those. She was sad when I got back and told her that, because the plan was to come, and then I was just like, no, I don't. It's easy for me, I don't know why. Everyone gets over it in the end, don't they? Came back to Brighton, tried to find a job, couldn't find a job in Brighton, really. And then a good friend of mine, Tom, who changed his life from being smashed all the time to becoming a chef, managed to get me in somewhere he worked, which was actually the best restaurant in Brighton at the time. So I worked for Andrew Mackenzie at Drake's for 2 years. It was bloody tough. All the chefs in there were 25 to 30, something like that. And I was going in there at 32 at the bottom level, just absolutely getting... Wow, you just look stupid every day. It was really tough, really tough. But I proved myself within 6 months, and the pastry chef left, and I took over. It's as simple as that. There was no choice. There was like, well, you're here, you do it. so it was great. I loved designing menus. The first I designed was like, wow, I can experiment with flavours and plating and stuff like that. I'd been baking sourdough since Thailand. I was doing it in Thailand, just learning. And so I changed all the bread there to sourdough to get really good. And we started to do loaves because he did rolls before, and then I did it in loaves and cut it it was just quicker as well. So it saved me time. Anything you can do in the kitchen to save you time, you got to do it. It's mental. It's crazy. So I worked for Andy for 2 years. It was literally £7 an hour at that time as well. And I mean, I think I was earning more in Thailand. I was living in Bangkok, and it was, it's a cost of living. It's a bit more expensive now, Bangkok, but compared to the UK, crazy difference. The rent's the big thing. My rent was always 200 quid a month in Thailand. So I came back. So 2 years at Drake's. I had to meet my old pals again. Started going raving again. The nightclub was just opposite Drake's. I'd come straight out of Drake's on Friday, all in there. Still have work Saturday morning. Stay up all night. Go to work. Back on the train again. What I went away to avoid. Instantly, the second I got back, smashing it again. Just like I was in my 20s. I was now working 70 hours in a kitchen and still trying to keep up. Every Sunday I worked, I was dying, still awake from the night before. I did that for 5 years. So then I moved to London after 2 years and had to work at a Michelin star. I lasted 7 days. I did 110 hours in 5 days. So I didn't last 7 days, I lasted 5 days. 5.5, because I went in Saturday morning. They sent me home Friday night because I'd done 100 hours in 5 days. And they sent me home at 8 p.m. because I was having like a hypo or something. They were like giving me sugar in water, even though I'm working with sugar all day long. I was literally passing out. There was one night, like the third night, I fell asleep on the bus home. So I'd start at 8 and finish at between 1 and 2 a.m. Because near the theatre, last service is midnight for the main course. Crazy. Hillier de Joel Robuchon. At the time was 2-star. I think it lost a star in the end. It might have been 1-star when I was there, but it was 2-star before. But he had the most stars in the world. And he passed a few years ago now, but it might even be a case that under his name still the most stars in the world. It was like 3 stars, I think he's got, maybe 5. Anyway, I lasted a week there, and that was that. Because who can do that at the age of 30? Well, some people do, but fuck me, I couldn't. I was 34. I was dying. I was doing 18 hours a day, and I fell asleep on the bus, and I woke up I was living in far East London, Forest Gate, and I woke up in Ilford on the bus at 5 in the morning. and I had to be back. I literally got the bus back home, had a shower, and then went to work. It wasn't even a case of me getting pissed. It was a case of me. That's mental. If you do those 18-hour day shifts, you've got to live near the place. You just got to go and die that second. Boom. Anyway, that was that. So then I just researched, and it was like, well, you can work for agencies. So I worked for agencies for, I don't know, a year or something like that, until I was like, okay, maybe try a full-time job again. And I worked at Bluebird, did the afternoon tea there for 6 months. I worked for a great chef there. He pushed me really hard, and I was still too slow. I was slow. I've always been slow. It's the ADHD brain. It's really, I'm not ideal as a chef at all. I've got the skill, but the organisation and the one thing after another. So anyway, it was good working for Simon Jenkins, I think. He's a consultant, and he was consulting there. He's a good chef. He worked for Marcus Waring for years. And did that for 6 months. It was crap pay. They weren't putting it up, so I was just like, sod this off. I went back to agency for a bit, and then I fell into my 2-year job through an agency. So I actually worked there for a year through the agency, and they managed to blag me onto their books. It was the worst idea. Stupid. I was making so much more money getting paid by the hour. You just get absolutely fucked in that industry. I went from doing 60-hour weeks, getting paid by the hour, to getting a salary of 35 grand for doing the same shit. I was probably earning 45 before. Anyway, that's how it goes. And I knew it was a stupid idea, and I bloody did it anyway. But it did go on my CV as a full-time job. So after that, that's when I met my most recent partner. She was Thai. And then I moved out of my mate's house where I lived for 4 years. Very, very close friend of mine. I know him from skateboarding. Very, very smart individual. And then I moved with my new Thai girlfriend. Means prawn in Thai. They always have nicknames. Suniwan is her name. Very nice name. So I moved to Stoke Newington, a pretty trendy area of London, East London. It was nice to live in that area. And then COVID hit, and then I left that place, and I just left before COVID because I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was doing me in. Sorry, so I didn't really tell you about it. So it was good. It was a good job. I learnt a lot, and I designed a menu every 3 months, and they got better and better, and I sort of really honed my skills in artistic skills there. Worked with a great chef, Marcello, and it was a really good place to work. But I got fed up with doing the hours for not the money in the end, and I left. That was when I met my partner, and so I floated about doing a bit of agency for a bit, and there wasn't as much work then. And then we had COVID, and luckily my agency helped pay, managed to get us paid, managed to get us a salary for COVID. So that was good. It wasn't much, but it was enough to live off, just about. So that was that. And then I found the relationship really difficult. Really, 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 really difficult. It was a mismatch from if I'm looking back now. But we stayed together for the last 4 years. It's only been a year ago that we broke up. So we were there locked in for whatever it was, a year and a half, was it? I can't remember. Crazy thinking about it now. And then I went back to agency, and I worked at the Ritz and the Berkeley through agency, which was great. The Ritz is hardcore, but if I'd have moved to London and started there, I'd have got really good. A really good place to work. It's militant. It's like boom, boom, boom. Next job, next job, next job, next job. But it's simple. It's not simple. There's still a lot of skill involved, but you know what the job is, and you do the same one every day, and you just get better and better. But they're fun. They were good jobs. I liked it. It was afternoon tea. We just made 3 perfect miniature cakes, like 1,000 a day of each, or no, maybe between 300 and 600 a day of each one. And you can really hone your skill on those. Now they've got a Michelin star kitchen upstairs as well for the pastry as well. And obviously the dessert kitchen as well is up there, so you get to go up there and do some bits as well. But so yeah, agencies are pretty good for that. I worked at Pollen Street Social as well, which is Jason Atherton's flagship, which is now closed. But I was there for 3 months as well, so I got some pretty good jobs. That was before though. That was before COVID. That was before Apex and the COVID. But I had some good jobs through the time in agencies. Got to work at Helen de Rose one day when it was 3-star, but I worked there when it was 2-star for a few weeks. So that's my chef career. So then, sadly, after COVID, that wiped my dad out. He had got dementia. Didn't really talk about his story. I feel like this is going on forever now. I don't even know whether you can actually upload a video this long. Surely you can, but there you go. So my dad's diet was very much carbohydrate heavy, and from the carb loading from, what we were told, sports nutrition science at the time. And his diet was like that from his 40s, from when he started running. He started running at about the age of 40. He was an alcoholic before that, so that might be where that comes from, the addictive personality. And he pretty much only ate. He didn't even eat any animal protein, if I remember rightly. Very rarely that he'd cook it. If he'd just eat pasta, potatoes, steamed veg, and shit tons of fruit. That was his diet. Mental when you think about it now. Well, I'm doing what I do now. But that's that. So when he stopped running, this would have been 10 years ago, he still continued to walk. So he ran 18 miles a day, roughly. And then he continued to walk, very, very long walks. And he'd go, sometimes he'd go for like, I don't know, I seem to remember him almost doing a marathon in a day, or maybe more. I don't know. He'd just leave at 6 a.m, all over the South Downs and then come back. Or, but so he was walking, still have this very high carb diet. I knew nothing about nutrition really, apart from how to cook well, balanced well. Obviously I learned a little bit about sports nutrition when I was running. I think I learned a little bit more than he did. He wasn't really fussed because I was at least eating animal protein. So since then, he developed type 2 diabetes very shortly after he stopped running and still had this high carb diet. And then 2 years after that, he developed Lewy body dementia. He'd had skin cancer as well, which managed to get sorted out pretty quickly. He always loved the sun. He was like black as a Dick's hat band, he used to call himself. But he was very loved, absolutely loved. The political cartoonist Steve Bell, he used to house sit them and all the children to feel like he's their dad, more so. No offence to Steve. Steve's a great guy. But Steve's busy with his cartoons and his creative brain. And Andy was always cleaning the house when they were there, and then they'd have to ask his advice on stuff, or they would ask his advice, and they'd go to him more. The whole family absolutely adore him. Anyway, so Lewy body dementia, that started, and it was noticeable here and there, patches, but it wasn't too bad for about the first 6 years. Then we had to get carers in, and 2 years of carers. The carers told us it's time for him to go in a home because they couldn't keep up. He would be increasingly erratic and he'd get often a little bit offensive and slightly violent sometimes, which is very out of character for him. Not very nice. So that's pretty much what happened. Sorry, I'm starting to zone out now. This has been on for a while. So he then moved on to so then we moved him into a home. This was just after COVID, and the first home we put him in, that was advised. It was a new home, and it was absolutely shocking. And they pretty much killed him. I mean, that's not. I guess it's not their fault so much. The carers, they just weren't trained in dementia. But it's meant to be a dementia specialist, and they just left him to rot pretty much on many days. So that was that. We got the ambulance came in the end and took him away and took him to hospital and said he's not fit here. And he ends up in hospital for 5 or 6 months. No, 3 months. And then they had a COVID outbreak in the hospital. So I was going there to visit him. And then they had a COVID outbreak for 6 weeks. And he was doing really well in the hospital. He was getting better and better. But he was still, by this time, he could hardly talk. It was pretty rough. But when he got so slim in that first home that he looked like he was about to die. They brought him back to life a little bit. And then the COVID outbreak and the lack of, they're in this ward without... There was a window, but it was hardly any sunlight. But anyway. And no contact for 6 weeks. And he went down almost as bad as the other home. Not quite as bad, but... Then we found a great home for him, put him there. These big guys there that just knew what they were doing. They sort of told me, yeah, he's only got 3 months. They knew, they know so well. And it was about 3 months. It was it was New Year's Day, 2022. 2023? 2023. 2 years now, isn't it? 2023. 2022 maybe. Yeah, because it's over. Yeah. And that was that. I got called in the morning on New Year's Day. Didn't have a crazy messy one. Was getting a bit more smart at this age. And off I went. So I got on they told me in the morning. I jumped off on the train and went to Haywards Heath from London and got there half an hour late, which was sad. So that's what got us to move to Brighton. When that happened, we moved from London to Brighton. I was still in temporary working, so moved to Brighton and then realised there were no jobs in pastry whatsoever, and it was absolutely terrible. So going back a little bit, at the age of 37, after I'd been a chef for 5 years, 32 to 37, I started to, this was a year before I met Gung, I started to experiment with diet because I felt increasingly jaded and just so worn out from the weekends and the chefing. It was crazy. Standing, not organising my time, being at work until 2 in the morning on Friday. I didn't work till that late at this job usually, but so anyway, I then experimented with the ketogenic diet. I discovered Dave Asprey and all my bottles. So my entry point was Rich Roll from podcasts, and then I discovered Fibre Fueled by Will Bolshewitz, who I listened to on that. And I read that book, and then I actually went vegan for 6 months. And then I started to research nutrition more, and I found Dr. Mark Hyman. I did the vegan thing for 6 months, and I didn't feel great, and I was like, you know what, maybe I don't believe in this. And I brought animal proteins back, and carried on listening to podcasts. I started to get really into them, as I do with everything, infatuated with things. And then I found Dr. Mark Hyman, and I listened to him very avidly and all of his guests. And I learnt about the fact that you can get phytonutrients from animal proteins, from, for instance, the way a cow eats its grass, etc. And digests it and it goes into the meat. So that very much intrigued me, maybe bring animal proteins back. Then I heard Dave Asprey on Mark Hyman's podcast. I was like, "Whoa, this guy's wacky." Butter in your coffee, MCT oil, what's that? So I started playing around with that, bulletproof fasting. I'd always been a breakfast guy, but I was like, okay, let's try this. And that was the best I'd ever felt when I started to do that bulletproof fasting. I was starting to get so confused. I mean, you listen to Mark Hyman, I love him. He's fat focused, at least, because he's, you know, all about controlling blood sugar. But he very much believes in plants, and I just believe that diversity was key, and I would go to great lengths to eat 30 different plant foods every single day. Before they even used to say that on the Zoe app, which is about 3 years old. 30 plants a day. I was fucking doing that for years before. Just from my obsessive nature of detail. So I did that for about, I ate like that for about 3 years. No, 2 years. I did bulletproof fasting, and then I would have like a mackerel salad with all sorts of microgreens and different vegetables. That's what I'd used to take to work. I'd have 2 of those, 2 boxes, glass boxes, no plastic. I wouldn't eat any food at work. Everything, I was obsessed with control. And looking back now, I would get really anxious the second I started to, after I'd eat the first meal, the lunch. I'd eat the lunch and go back and finish the shift. At this stage I was doing afternoon teas, and I'd finish at 5 p.m. and have lunch at 2 maybe. And then I would smash another box. Before I went home, I wouldn't eat with the partner. I was like, no, I want to control it's just, be selfish like that. And looking back, I did get better actually in the end. But I was like that for a while. I guess it's what you do. You got to do when you got to be a bit selfish when you got to start to try and look after your health, and you got to repair so much damage. So then, I guess, yeah, I've been eating like that. I ate a lot of Thai food with my partner. Very healthy as you could, as healthy as it could be in terms of a mixed diet. I didn't eat too much rice. I just have a little bit of white rice, tiny bit. I always wanted dessert. Always. I'd make them as healthy as possible. I'd researched all the sweeteners. I used allulose in the end. I used to buy 10 kilos at a time from America and used to make little desserts. But I'd have 3 types of frozen organic berries with 5 types of nuts, coconut seeds, a little bit of dark chocolate, the chia seeds, all of that crap. And I'd have it they'd be quite small ones though. Sometimes they would just be little pots like that. But I'd just have to have the sweet thing after every meal. If it was 3 meals, it would still be 3 desserts. Even if it was breakfast, if it was a fry-up, I'd still have the dessert after it. I had to do it. So that's addiction in action right there. So we moved to Brighton. I found it really hard to get a job. And I got really depressed. And I actually got, the 3 months after my dad passed, I went sober. I tried to do it 3 times in our relationship, but Gunwood just said, no, it's silly, you don't need to be so extreme. But she didn't understand that I am, some people, complete abstinence is essential. And I'm one of those. So it took her to realise, and for me to put my foot down on that for the 4th time, that I was going to do it. But that year of sobriety was the hardest year of my life, and I was absolutely depressed. Very rough. I started to eat more carbs. I was pretty low carb before that. I started working out more, just trying to do everything to try and lift this fog and haze and depression. I'd secretly been trying to get out of the relationship after the first year, maybe the second year, but we kept having these big rows, and then I would go into my shell for like 2 days every time, and I just wouldn't say anything. And I tried to get out of it quite a few times, which was very good at getting me back. And anyway, it was a year